We are live. Let me just make sure our technology is being kind to us. Here we are. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to everyone. This is a little chit chat and chew that we're going to be hosting here for the Well Counseling and Consulting Group. I'm so excited that those of you who are able to join us today, I am checking the chat, so feel free to pop into the chat and say hello to us. My name is Carolyn Day. I am the Director of Operations here at the Well. I'm also one of the trauma-informed coaches. We love to show up to provide services to our community, making sure that you are on the path to health and wellness, healing, and recovery. If those of you who are new, if somebody shared this with you, first of all, thank them because they love you and they're sharing good things with you. The Well is the premier counseling and consulting practice here in Indianapolis, Indiana. We are proud to serve all of Indiana. We are opening offices in we have virtual offices in South Bend, Indiana, and Fort Wayne, Indiana. So we are very excited to be able to serve the entire state. But we are based right here in Indianapolis, Indiana. So this is our second kind of chit chat and chew event where we have these quick conversations that allow you to get practical strategies that you can apply to your life to improve your mental health. We know that a lot of people are seeking out counseling services, that individual service, those one-on-one sessions, but you got to have something that can keep you going in between sessions. So we want these chit chat and chew events to be able to give you those strategies that can support you. Today, we are talking about a very important topic, and that is around the topic of grief. And so I am super excited to have two of our clinicians. Y'all know we got a bunch over there, but we have two of our clinicians here today that are going to provide us with some resources to help you improve your overall mental health, but also focusing specifically on your grief and how that impacts your holiday season. Because we know a lot of people, as we go into the Thanksgiving week, and that kind of kicks off the entire Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's time. For a lot of people, that's going to bring up some additional feelings of grief. These two ladies, Dr. Denise Hayes and Dayshell Dykes, are also going to be hosting a support group, a psychoeducation group for those people who are experiencing grief right now, and that's called Living Through Loss. So ladies, before I get all into this, why don't you guys, Dr. Hayes, I'm gonna start with you, give us a little bit of an intro to you, you as a clinician, what you do here for us at the Well, and how people can get to know you.
Thank you so much, Carolyn, and good morning or good afternoon to everyone. My name is Denise Hayes. I am from Indianapolis, Northwest Side. So I grew up around 34th and Clifton. And I have been practicing as a psychologist for over 30 years. And one of the primary reasons that I chose to go into mental health is because when I was an adolescent in high school, it was really hard. And I had the fortune to meet a wonderful Black social worker, and it kind of turned my life around, and I wanted to be able to give back to my community. So I have worked primarily in higher education at college student health centers, but what we see there is what is in the community generally. So I've worked with depression, with anxiety, with self-esteem issues. I've led women of color groups, and just fostered self-esteem and support around people of color in a wide variety of ways, both on campus and in the community. So I'm looking forward to talking more about grief and loss. It's often very difficult. I had an aunt that actually died on Christmas. And so, when those things happen and they are anchored in a significant time, especially through the holidays, is particularly difficult. So hopefully the information we share will help you get through that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hayes. Y'all, the wealth of knowledge and experience that she brings to the table, guys, you are going to enjoy this opportunity. So Dayshell, go ahead and tell us a little bit about you. She's one of our newest members of the team here at the Well. So excited she's jumping in with both feet already.
Well, hi, everybody. My name is Dayshell Dykes. like Calvin said, I am one of the new associate therapists at the practice, and I'm very excited to be there. I'm from the far east side of Indianapolis, born and raised, and I've done a lot of work with individuals with depression, anxiety. Um, I've done a lot of skills groups, teaching people how to cope and learning proper ways to cope. And I've done some work with grief as well. So I'm excited to expand that in a group setting and work with you all, um, and just start healing, because I know it's really hard. Like Dr. Hayes said, especially during the holiday season, because you're missing that someone, and there's this time where you're expected to be happy, and there's certain expectations around the holiday season. So I'm excited to do the work with you guys.
Awesome, awesome. These ladies are both so excited to be able to help provide this service. And like we said, that skills-based group, because there's the support that you get in the counseling office, which is wonderful, but it's all about having those skills to be able to apply day in and day out. So we're excited to be able to have this. So let's start at the beginning. Let's not waste any time here. And when we're talking about grief, we say that that's a word that we've kind of tossed around. We titled this. Let's kind of take it all the way back to the beginning. When we use the word grief, Dr. Hayes, like, how do you define that for your clients?
I talk about it in terms of loss, and it's loss of something that's meaningful. Usually we think of it as a person, but it's not limited to a person. It could be loss of a pet. Many times we hear people that were athletes, or some other ability that they had that they lost due to illness or accidents. And that's incredibly painful. It changes your identity. Sometimes you change jobs, and how you were seen before is different. I recently retired, and so there's some grief, mostly joy, but some grief with not doing the things, not being around the same people. And so I'm thrilled to be working with the Well to help that. But to me, grief is a process. We often talk about it in terms of 5 steps, but it's not a step thing, it's a process, and everybody does it differently. And so those are some of the things that I talk with my clients about when it comes to grief.
Awesome, awesome. So you hit on several things that I want to kind of highlight there. So you said that it's not just the loss of a person, a loved one. It can be the loss of an ability or an identity. I think that's so important, because sometimes we think like, well, I haven't lost a person, but I'm experiencing these symptoms that feel like I've had a loss. And so that loss of identity, that loss of role, those different things. So I think that's a really important point to bring up. So you don't have to necessarily have lost a person to experience the grief and to benefit from this living through loss group that we're getting ready to have. Now, especially during the pandemic, I know a lot of people experience some type of loss. And it kind of speaks to what you were saying, Dr. Hayes, like it's not just the people, but there were almost even like I hate to say like a loss of innocence or a loss of perception or a loss of hope. So those type of experiences really can show up. But the way that looks in a person can vary from person to person. And that's one of the things I love that you guys are going to talk about in the group specifically. But Deshelle, can you tell us why or how people can react to grief differently, how it can vary from person to person, even in the same family?
Yes. On a surface level, I would say it's because we're all individuals. So the way that we process things is going to be different from person to person. But when we dig a little deeper, the way that we process and interpret things is influenced by the impact or the relationship that you had with that person, place, or thing that you may have lost, as well as how you interpret loss of that person, place, or thing. And all of those things work together to influence how you may react to that loss. And like you said, we're going to expand on that more when we get within the group.
That's such a good point, because I think sometimes, especially like in families, you might have one family member, and during the holiday season especially, that one family member seems like they are doing fine. And I'm going to use, quotation marks around that fine, because fine is relative too. But then another family member seems like they're really, really struggling. And you said that individualized need is what's really important. And that doesn't change, like you don't love a person more or care more about a person because you're grieving differently, but we all kind of react differently. So those are really, really good points. Now, we know that in the mental health space, whether we're talking about an actual diagnosis or just a person's kind of experience, there can be a lot of overlap in terms of symptoms, right? So the reason why a person will come to a counseling office, or the reason why they might want to be a part of one of these skills groups, like what we're getting ready to have. Grief is often one of those things that brings up all kinds of emotions. So how can we know if it's grief? What might we be seeing if it's grief? And then how will we know if it's something different? And either one of you can answer this.
So I'm happy to start. So one thing about grief that's different from depression, for example, is usually you can kind of pinpoint the incident that contributes to the grief. Where sometimes with depression you can also, but sometimes depression is gradual and it's the accumulation of different things. So I think that's one of the significant components of grief versus depression. There are some things that are very similar. Um, Loss of interest in things, difficulty with sleeping, change in appetite, irritability. All of those could be present in either grief or depression or anxiety or some other mental health concern. But normally you can identify the grief or the loss or the change um, that might be associated with it. Both of them can feel very lonely. I think the grief process is very individualized, like Deshelle said. And even if there's siblings that have lost a parent, everyone's reaction is going to be different. And some people, if they don't talk about grief, or if it's not a value that they have, or the family doesn't support it, or you don't have people to talk to, it can lead to depression. So if it doesn't get addressed, it can go into depression. So they're closely related.
I couldn't have said it any better. I agree. I feel like they are. Depression and even anxiety, like there's some symptoms that are going to be mimicked in grief. But I also agree that loss is the big catalyst for grief, so that you can pinpoint, like, this is when things started to change for me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, such good points, right? So it's that clear indicator of what happened or the change. I think sometimes too we miss it because we think, well, I'm supposed to be happy that I retired, right? This is supposed to be a good thing. So you don't even realize that maybe that's where that lack of those symptoms are coming from. So that's a really good point. Now I want to talk a little bit about the group, and because I want to make sure that everybody gets their questions answered about that. So this Living Through Loss group is virtual. So it's open to anyone, anywhere, right? So they don't have to come into our office. You guys are focused on right now 4 Tuesday evenings, and you're going to cover different topics each week. So I'm going to make sure the registration link is around this video, wherever you're watching it, in case you want to register, because we would love to have you come in here. And I think one of the things that I wanted to touch on about the benefit of a group like this is sometimes when an entire family is experiencing grief, especially when there is a loss, you almost don't feel like you can lean on anybody in your family because everyone else is struggling and they don't have the wherewithal to kind of bolster you up. Having the benefit of somebody whose experience is similar but not the same does give you that added benefit, right? So if we want to speak to people who are saying like, I don't know about talking about my feelings in front of other people. I don't know, these are strangers. If you were speaking to somebody who's saying like, I'm not sure that a group environment is good for me. Can you speak to why groups really work, and how even talking to quote unquote strangers can be a part of the healing process? And I know you both have experience with that. So either one of you can feel free to start on that.
Deshelle, do you want to start?
Yes, I can start. A big thing about groups is there's a universality component. And what I mean by that is that a a lot of people feel like they're the only ones because you're going through your own individual process. You feel like I'm the only one who feels like this. I'm the only one going through this. But in a group setting, when people start to really open up, you see, I'm not the only person who feels like this. I'm not the only person who's thinking this or who experienced this. It just lets you know that you're not the only one. And it kind of creates an environment where you're more comfortable to share and feel how you feel and be yourself, because everybody is feeling away as well.
Yeah, and I'll just add that, sometimes it's great to talk to friends and family members, but there's a benefit in that objectivity and that little separation, because then you can talk more openly in some ways that you might not talk with your family, because there are other interactions, I'll say, other energies in families. And as wonderful as families can be, we can have our hiccups and challenges. And so some of those might come up when you're in the process of grieving, or you might not want to talk to friends or even necessarily a clergy or spiritual leader if they know all your family and you don't want to necessarily share all of that. The beauty of the group is you have leaders, so it's not just people just sitting around talking, although there are support groups and 12-step groups that work in that way, and they have some structure. But for our group, you'll have two clinicians, and so they will help you if you kind of are struggling with how to articulate what you're feeling. We can help you not put words in your mouth, but ask questions to help you kind of untangle some of the mixed feelings you may have. The other thing about grief is that sometimes the people that you lose, maybe you didn't have the best relationship, or maybe they were so profoundly important to you, you don't know how you can move on. And so having someone that's skilled and trained can help you put together a support plan for yourself to stay safe. And so there are a lot of things that we can offer in these groups. And again, talking to someone that is invested in getting better, just like you are, can also be very helpful. Everybody is invested. No, everybody would have something to lose if they took it away. So we talk about keeping things private and the value of that so that it feels safe, the value of everybody participating. We wouldn't want anyone just sitting and listening and not participating, but everybody participates at their comfort level and share at their comfort level. So we work hard at the beginning of each session to create a safe space, so to speak, and find out what concerns people have, as well as bringing forth information. A lot of it will be information that you can take with you, as well as some opportunities to share what you're going through. So we feel like we are creating something that can be helpful to everybody that's facing grief, regardless of where you are in that process. It could be someone who's lost someone recently, or it could be someone who's been gone for a while. And then new things come up that bring that up, that make you miss them even more. So there are no rules about who it needs to be or when it happened. We're here just to help you any way we can.
Oh my gosh, such good points there. So the things that I heard really were important is, here at the Well, we've done so much to try and reduce the stigma around mental health and accessing mental health services, but we have to be acknowledged. In some families, there's still this stigma, this thing that you kind of need to get over it, right? That, you should be fine, or everybody has lost somebody, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. So I think it's really, really important that we recognize the same way we would very easily go to the doctor if we have strep throat, or, go get our hair done when our edges need to be touched up. We need to work with professionals and get that additional support. And so I love the idea of having a safe space where you can experience whatever you're experiencing, and then with the added benefit of that clinician who's there to give you that support. I do want to also touch on the fact that it is a benefit to have a session like this, because it offsets the cost a little bit. So sometimes when there's loss, especially around the holiday season, especially during the start of a recession, there's a lot of people who are saying like, hey, I want some support, but I'm not really sure. My insurance has a, $5,000 deductible. The cost per session of this group is only $25. So for most people, it's not more, it's less than what you would probably pay for a copay. And you get the benefit of having not one, but two clinicians and that support of a community. So there's really, really a lot of perks to that group environment. Now, as we're wrapping up, I am checking. Looks like we don't have any questions so far. If you have a question that's burning on the tip of your tongue, drop it in the chat and I will make sure that I bring that to the ladies. I do want to make sure that everyone knows a little bit of extra kind of support for people who maybe happened upon this and they're saying like, well, I don't think I'm grieving, but now that you're mentioning it, I think I know somebody who is struggling. What would you say to someone who said like, I think I'm okay, but I have a friend or a family member who I think they're struggling a little bit. Now, obviously we could share this video with them, but what would you say to them to, give them some maybe advice on how they could support someone or offer some support to someone who is experiencing a loss?
I'll start. If it's a close friend, I would just ask them how they're doing. I think a lot of times when someone has lost someone, everybody is around them, around the wake and the service and all of that. And then we kind of go back to our normal routines, and the people that have lost someone are just, trying to hold it together. And so starting with how are you doing? I realized that your mother, your auntie, your pet has been gone for 3 months, 6 months, 2 years. How's that for you? And just begin with that, because they might really appreciate someone just kind of acknowledging that. And even if they say everything's okay, you can say, well, I was just thinking about you and I wondered about that because I know, and maybe reflect on your own experience when I lost or when I felt some grief. It took me some time. And so I just want you to know that I'm here for you. I did hear this workshop and that made me think of you. So I would kind of ease in like that.
I think that's a great start to just start the conversation. So I know a lot of times people have lost someone. It feels like the world just keeps on moving, and then, but for you, it's that person's gone. Your world is completely different. So I think acknowledging that is very, very big. And then sometimes people know what they need. So even take another step and say, how can I be here for you during this time? Because sometimes people don't want to talk a lot. They don't want you to check in every day because now they feel a little harassed. Like they want you to give them some time so they can process and feel how they feel. Of course, check in, you want to make sure they're okay, but just ask people what they need from you at that time and try to just be a present help. Check in every now and then so that they know that they're not alone, and you, though you may not be feeling that loss exactly how they are, you are acknowledging and you feel it with them.
Excellent, excellent points. Excellent points. Yeah, I think so Elizabeth and I lost our dad a couple years ago. And I know people reached out around those kind of momentous moments, like the first birthday after, the first Father's Day after, those kind of things. But sometimes on those not so big days, you have a low pot, maybe it's an important date for you, or, maybe something just as simple as like, I was having a bad day at work and I wanted to call my dad and I realized I couldn't. Getting that surprise text message or that surprise phone call, just wanted to let you know I was thinking about you. That really is a benefit. And I think we underestimate that. And sometimes that kind of leads to that isolation and that feeling like you're the only one that you mentioned, Dayshell. So I think those are really good points. Now, as we're wrapping up, I'm not seeing any specific questions in the comment section, but I just want to make sure I thank both of you for spending your lunchtime with me. And I want to thank all of you who are watching this either live or watching the recording. Thank you so much for participating in this. We know that this is such an important topic. That's why we're so excited to be able to offer this Living Through Loss group. You can do either the one session or, a couple sessions, or you can do the entire group of the sessions for $100. And we do have a limited number of partial scholarships available. So we do not want cost to be something that prevents you from getting support. So please either click that link, and I'll also make make sure that we have our contact information in there. You can always call our office and ask for any questions about, and that scholarship is accessible for individual sessions as well as group sessions. So we want to make sure that you're making full use of that. As we get ready to sign off, ladies, before we say goodbye, is there any final thoughts or anything that you wanted to share on either the topic of grief, specifically related to the holiday season, or anything around the group that we're going to have?
I'll just say that in addition to grief, there is the seasonal affective disorder. So when our days are shorter, uh, even under the best of circumstances, sometimes it's difficult. So if you're struggling and you're kind of beating up on yourself saying, well, I should be over this, just keep in mind that this is a tough time for many people. And so not just about grief. So if you're also experiencing grief, you're kind of working overtime to try to manage that. And if you have children that you are responsible for and you're trying to put on the happy face for them, I would strongly encourage you to try to have a place for yourself, whether it's with us or not, but be sure to open up to someone and let them know how you're feeling so that you don't end up just crashing, because those feelings don't go away. So, you know, that you might become more irritable or more withdrawn. So seek out help. It's okay to seek out help. It's as Kavalin said, if you had strep throat, if you have diabetes, you get your medicine and you seek the resources. So we're here for you. We know the community and we also know how to be helpful. So I hope you'll take advantage.
Yes, and I'll just piggyback off of that. This is, if you're watching this, then you have a resource at your disposal. And if we don't know something, maybe we can connect you with something that can help you. And I would also say, because there's just a lot going on, like you said, SAD, grief, depression, anxiety, whatever's going on, it's just a lot. I just hope that everybody will give yourself some grace. Allow yourself to feel how you feel, because our emotions, we're human, we have emotions, and life is not always easy. So just give yourself some grace, allow yourself to feel how you feel, and try to find something that will create a new feeling, a new experience, maybe even a new environment. If that means you have to, okay, I have kids, they're in the living room, maybe I gotta take a step to the bathroom, just that I need something new. Create that new experience. You can create that new feeling and take a break from, even if it's just a 2-minute break away from whatever might be stressing you out. Because your body needs it, and it will thank you for that break.
So true, especially this time of year. I think a lot of times people think like, I don't have time for anything else. But I want to make sure that I encourage people, sometimes adding that one good thing to your day or that one good thing to your week actually opens up bandwidth for you the rest of the week. So it's not like you're adding one more thing to your to-do list. You're actually filling your cup, which is going to allow you to do the things that you need to do for your family, with your job, with your community. So don't take the thing that really benefits you and put that on the bottom of the list. You got to prioritize that so that you can show up for your family, for yourself in the best way possible. So I think that adding that good thing, you are absolutely spot on with that. So I thank everyone for joining us today. This video will be here live, so we'll have information about joining the group and also getting more information about any of the clinicians in our office who are currently accepting individual clients, as are Dr. Hayes and Dayshell. And we would love to see you at the office in person or virtually, because we do have all of those options available. So thank you so much for your time today. You guys have an amazing rest of your day.